I was standing at my father's graveside when a stranger walked up to me and said the 5 words that shattered everything. "You look just like him." I turned around, confused. The woman was probably in her 60s, with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair pulled back in a neat bun. She was staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. "I'm sorry?" I managed to say, still clutching the funeral program in my trembling hands. "Your biological father," she whispered. "Michael, you have his exact same eyes." The world tilted sideways. I felt like I was underwater, hearing her voice through some impossible distance. My dad, the man we just buried 20 minutes ago, his name was Robert Chen. I was Sarah Chen. This woman was clearly confused, probably grief-stricken, mixing up families at the cemetery. But she wasn't done talking. "I'm Linda Morrison, Michael's sister, your aunt." She reached into her purse and pulled out a faded photograph. "This is him when he was about your age." I looked down at the picture and my knees nearly gave out. It was like looking into a mirror. Same dark eyes, same stubborn jawline, same slightly crooked smile. The resemblance was undeniable, terrifying, impossible. "There has to be some mistake," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. Linda's face crumpled with sympathy. "Oh, honey, you don't know, do you?" The cemetery suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. Mourners were still lingering around other graves, but I felt completely alone despite being surrounded by my entire family. My mom was about 50 feet away, accepting condolences from neighbors. My older brother Jake was helping load flowers into cars. "Don't know what?" The words came out as barely a whisper. "Michael died in a car accident when you were 2 years old." "Your mother? She remarried Robert when you were 3. I've been looking for you for 23 years. My mind started racing backward through every family photo, every birthday, every Christmas morning. I thought about how I never quite looked like anyone else in our family. How my brother Jake had dad's nose and mom's chin, while I always felt like the odd one out. How strangers would sometimes ask if I was adopted, and my parents would laugh it off. The funeral program slipped from my hands and fluttered to the ground. "I have pictures," Linda continued gently. "Letters he wrote to you before he died. He loved you so much, Sarah. He wanted to be part of your life, but your mother thought it would be better if you had stability with Robert." I couldn't breathe. Every memory I had of my childhood was suddenly suspect. Was anything real? Did my parents, did Robert and Mom, did they ever plan to tell me? "Why now?" I asked. "Why are you telling me this now?" Linda's eyes filled with tears. "Because I saw the obituary in the paper. I knew it had to be you, and I thought you deserved to know you had another family who never stopped thinking about you." I looked over at my mom, who was still talking to the pastor. She looked exhausted, broken from losing her husband of 25 years. How could I walk over there and confront her about this lie right now? How could I demand answers when she just buried the love of her life? But how could I not? "There's more," Linda said softly. "You have a half-brother, Michael's son from his first marriage. His name is David, and he's been wanting to meet you since he was old enough to understand he had a sister out there somewhere." The ground felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. Not only was my entire identity a lie, but I had a brother I'd never met. A whole other family with their own traditions, their own inside jokes, their own version of who I was supposed to be. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Jake. "Where are you? Mom's looking for you. Time to head to the house." I stared at the message. The house, where we'd all sit around telling stories about Dad, about what a wonderful man he was. Where my aunts would bring casseroles and my cousins would awkwardly try to make conversation. Where everything would be normal except for the gaping hole where Dad used to be. Except now, I knew there was another hole. One that had been there my whole life, invisible and unnamed. "I know this is overwhelming," Linda said, "but I have something that belonged to your father. Something he wanted you to have." She reached into her purse again and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a heart-shaped locket. She opened it to reveal a tiny photo of a man holding a baby. "That's Michael holding you when you were 6 months old. The last photo they took together." I stared at the picture. The baby could have been any baby, but something about the way the man was looking at the camera made my chest ache. There was such love in his eyes, such hope, Such complete devotion to this tiny person in his arms. He bought this for your 16th birthday, Linda explained. He kept hoping that someday he'd be able to give it to you himself. He never gave up believing that you'd find each other again. My hands were shaking as I took the necklace. It felt warm, like it had been waiting for me all these years, like it belonged to me in a way that nothing else ever had. What was he like? I heard myself ask. Linda's whole face lit up. Oh, Sarah, he was magic with children. He worked as a kindergarten teacher. Can you believe that? This big, tough-looking guy who melted completely around kids. He used to volunteer at the children's hospital on weekends, reading stories to the sick ones. I thought about Robert, who'd been a quiet accountant, a good man, a steady man, but not someone you'd describe as magic with children. He'd loved me, but in a careful, responsible way. This Michael person sounded like someone who loved with his whole heart wide open. He played guitar, Linda continued, wrote songs. He had this old beat-up acoustic that he'd carry everywhere. He wrote a lullaby for you when you were born. I have a recording of him singing it. A lullaby. For me, written by a man I'd never remember meeting. My phone buzzed again. Jake, seriously, where are you? Mom's getting worried. I need to go, I said, but I couldn't move my feet. Of course, Linda said quickly. But Sarah, please, don't wait another 23 years to call me. David, he's getting married next month. He wanted to invite you, but we didn't know how to find you. We didn't want to disrupt your life. Getting married, I had a brother who was getting married, and I didn't even know his last name. What's David like? I asked. He's a paramedic, has your same stubborn streak according to his fiancée. He's been carrying around a picture of you since high school, hoping someday he'd get to show it to his kids and tell them about their Aunt Sarah. The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over, not just for this brother I'd never met, but for all the years we'd lost. All the birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments that could have been shared between us. Linda, I said, wiping my eyes, can you tell me something honestly? Do you think my parents were wrong to keep this from me? She was quiet for a long moment, looking past me toward where my family was waiting. I think, she said carefully, that your mother was a young widow trying to do what she thought was best for her daughter. I think Robert was a good man who raised you as his own and loved you completely. And I think Michael would have wanted you to be happy and safe above everything else. She paused, then added, but I also think you had a right to know that you were loved by more people than you ever imagined. I looked back toward my family, the people I'd called family my entire life. They were starting to gather near the cars, probably wondering where I'd wandered off to. In a few minutes, we'd all go back to Mom's house for the traditional post-funeral meal. People would share stories about Dad, about what a good man he was, how he loved his family, and it would all be true. Robert had been a wonderful father. He taught me to ride a bike, helped with homework, walked me down the aisle at my wedding last year. He'd been there for every scraped knee, every heartbreak, every triumph. He'd never made me feel like anything less than his daughter, but he wasn't my father. Not biologically, and somehow everyone knew but me. Linda, I said finally, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. She nodded. How many people knew? About Michael being my real father? Her face fell. Oh, sweetheart. How many? Your mother's sister knew. She was there when Michael died, helped your mom through everything. And I think Robert's parents suspected. They were always so careful around you, like they were afraid of saying the wrong thing. So my aunt knew. My grandparents probably knew. Maybe cousins, family friends, neighbors who'd been around long enough to remember. How many people had spent 25 years tiptoeing around this secret, watching me grow up as a lie? What about Jake? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Jake was only 5 when Robert adopted you officially. I don't think anyone ever sat him down and explained it, but kids pick up on things. He might have some memory of the transition, or he might have overheard conversations over the years. My brother. My older brother who'd always been protective of me, who'd never once mentioned that we didn't share the same father. Either he didn't know or he'd been keeping this secret his entire life. My phone rang this time instead of buzzing, Mom's ringtone. I have to take this, I told Linda. Honey, where are you? Mom's voice was strained, tired. People are asking about you. I'm still at the cemetery, Mom. I needed a few more minutes with Dad. There was a pause. I understand, sweetheart. Take all the time you need. We'll wait. The kindness in her voice made my heart break all over again. Here she was, having just buried her husband, worried about me when she should be falling apart. Mom, I said before I could stop myself, I love you. I love you too, baby. So much. I hung up and looked at Linda, who was watching me with those kind, knowing eyes. She loves you, Linda said softly. Whatever else happened, whatever decisions were made, that woman loves you with everything she has. I know, I whispered. That's what makes this so hard. Linda reached into her purse one more time and pulled out a thick manila envelope. These are copies of everything I have, she said. Pictures, letters Michael wrote to you, medical records you might need someday, the recording of your lullaby, David's contact information, everything. I took the envelope with shaking hands. It felt heavy, full of a whole other life I'd never lived. There's one more thing, Linda said. Michael's guitar. David has it, but he's been waiting to give it to you. He says it's not really his to keep. A guitar. Songs written for me. A lullaby I'd never heard. I looked down at the locket around my neck, then at the envelope in my hands, then at Linda's hopeful face. Can I ask you something? I said. If Michael had lived, do you think he would have fought for custody? Would he have tried to take me away from Mom and Robert? Linda shook her head immediately. Never. Michael believed that children needed stability above everything else. He would have wanted to be part of your life, but he never would have disrupted the family you'd built with Robert. He just wanted to love you from whatever distance he was allowed. I nodded, trying to process this picture of a man who'd loved me enough to let me go, who'd written me songs he knew I might never hear. Linda, I said, David's wedding. When is it exactly? Her eyes widened with hope. October 15th. It's going to be small, just family and close friends. Sarah, he would be over the moon if you came, even if you just wanted to meet beforehand. No pressure about the wedding itself. October 15th, 3 months away. 3 months to figure out how to tell my family that I discovered a whole other family. 3 months to decide how much of my life I wanted to rebuild. I looked back toward the cars one more time. Jake was walking toward me now, probably sent by Mom to retrieve their wandering daughter. I should go, I said. Of course. But Sarah? Linda's voice was urgent now. Don't wait too long to call. We've already lost so much time. I nodded and started walking toward Jake, clutching the envelope and feeling the unfamiliar weight of the locket against my chest. There you are, Jake said when he reached me. Mom was starting to worry you'd gotten lost in your own thoughts. I looked at my brother. My half-brother, technically, though he'd never know I was thinking that. Had he always known we didn't share the same father? Had he spent years protecting me from a truth he thought I couldn't handle? Jake, I said as we walked toward the cars together. Can I ask you something weird? Always. Do you remember when Mom and Dad got married? I mean, really married, not just stories people have told us? He frowned, thinking. I remember bits and pieces. I remember you in a little white dress, carrying flowers. I remember Dad crying when the pastor said something about becoming a real family. Why? Dad crying. Because he was officially adopting me, making me legally his daughter, and 5-year-old Jake had been there, watching it happen, probably not understanding what it all meant. No reason, I said, just wondering. But as we reached the car, I made a decision. I was going to call Linda tomorrow. I was going to learn about Michael Morrison, kindergarten teacher and songwriter, and man who'd loved me from a distance. I was going to meet my brother David and maybe even go to his wedding. And eventually, when the time felt right, I was going to sit down with my family and have the conversation that was 25 years overdue. Because sometimes the truth doesn't wait for a convenient moment. Sometimes it finds you at a graveside and changes everything you thought you knew about love, family, and the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of our lives. And sometimes, discovering you were loved by more people than you ever imagined is worth shattering everything you thought was real. Even if it means rebuilding your entire understanding of who you are, one piece at a time.